All right, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm joined with Joe.
Hello.
And here we're going to talk about one of our favorite memories and our saddest memories as we analyze the rise and fall of the Terminator series, where it went right and where it went wrong. Well, it's a pretty obvious where it happened. I mean, it's not like it's a mystery or anything.
It's just really sad because the series started off so powerful,
And it had potential.
Yes, it was. I'm after T2. It's like you think, oh man, what do you do from here? But
Exactly. Well, and that's going to bring up a very interesting point, and we're going to talk about that as we go on. First off, let's talk about the first movie, The Terminator. This is probably the first and only time Arnold Schwarzenegger played a villain in this series, which, in my opinion, was actually a mistake. You know?
I actually thought he did very well.
No, he did. He did great here, but the fact that he was a bad guy in this one and then the hero for the rest of them.
Oh yeah,
was kind of a mistake.
Kind of got you all mixed up.
1984, Arnold Schwarzenegger was just primed to play this role.
Oh yeah.
If for any other reason was the reality at that time, he couldn't act. Okay, if you don't believe me, watch Commando, watch Raw Deal, and see some of his earlier work where he attempted to be an actor. You can skip Hercules in New York because that wasn't his voice anyway.
I don't know. I liked him in Commando.
Yeah, no,
that was one of my first movies.
That was some of my favorite movies too. You know, back in those days, boy, they didn't care about the violence for us kids.
No way.
And then those were our toys and everything.
Yeah.
But when it came to the Terminator, he got more comfortable in front of the camera because all he had to be was this very wooden robot.
Yeah.
And it worked for him. You know?
And you want to talk about like special effects and stuff. Like remember when he was in this movie, he was in the hotel room.
Yes.
Doing the eye surgery.
Right.
That was that was 80s special effects.
Exactly. Oh, big time. Big time. You can, you know, back in those days, we actually appreciate it because it was cutting edge back then, you know. Oh, and I think that was the earlier, I'm not sure, but wasn't the first, when he comes out of the flames as the robot, wasn't that one of the early CGIs?
I don't even remember.
I think back then it was still animation and
Yeah.
everything. But still, back in those days, we didn't complain. It was cutting edge for us. And
you got pulled into the movie.
Right. Well, it's a simple premise.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, it's so funny because it's one of those time travel ironies, you know, that, you know, of course we're going to spoil the movie, so if I haven't said it yet, spoiler alert. They send somebody back in time to prevent something, but they wind up causing it. Kyle Reese turns out to be the father of John Connor and preparing Kyle, of John Connor and Sarah Connor prepares to be the warrior to groom John to be this.
I was wondering where you were going to go with that one.
Sorry, time travel, timey-wimey mix up. But you get what I'm saying. And of course, this brings up one humongous time travel paradox, which is how could John Connor have stopped the Terminator in the first place if he was never really born or something?
Yeah.
You know? Believe it or not, the answer I would give to that is that maybe somehow Sarah Connor married somebody else, had her son, and he was like a war hero or something. I'm stretching here. Because
somehow John Connor was born without Kyle Reese, and then all of a sudden
Kyle Reese comes in and still fulfills the same prophecy or something. You know, don't think too much about time travel. You'll get a headache, okay?
Yeah.
You're supposed to do what they said in Austin Powers 2. I suggest you not worry about it and just enjoy the ride. You know? But that said, though, this had intensity. And that was the important part of it all. You know? Because you had an unstoppable killing machine.
But you've probably heard about who they originally were going to do for the Terminator.
Talk about irony. Ignore that phone call. But, but it was supposed to be O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, but they didn't think he could be a cold-blooded killer.
Right. So. But the other thing that really fit better than anything else was Michael Biehn.
Oh yeah,
He
he was underrated, I think.
Oh, he's very underrated. He's probably one of the most underrated actors of our day and age. He though back in that time, I mean, just wait till we get to Terminator Genesis. We'll talk about it more. But for the most part, he looked like someone who came from hell.
Yeah.
You know, and they had the dream sequences. They had to introduce this world to you of what it was like. The fact that the remains of humanity was being hunted.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole Skynet thing and everything, and about how technology came back to destroy us. You know, that's basically what it's all about.
Yeah, be afraid of your computer.
Yeah. And if there's any other reason you gotta love this movie, Linda Hamilton's 80s hair.
Yeah.
She had the poof. You know, the hair was just flying everywhere. That was 80s though, guys.
She was another one that really got me. How she transformed. From first to second movie.
That was probably one of the most, if not the most, biggest thing about this movie was her transformation, you know. Well, we might as well jump right into it, you know. This movie, very basic, very simple.
This one was actually...
But powerful in its delivery.
It was actually classified as like an 80s horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, it had that dark tone to it.
Exactly.
T2 didn't have quite the dark tone. Well, actually, none of the Terminators after this movie had, I feel, such a dark tone.
Right. One thing that they introduced that they only do just a little bit in these movies is that they go through the whole how the Terminator can replicate a person's voice.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Sarah Connor, she did the classic movie mistake. She calls her mother.
Right.
She tells her where she is, but she's talking to her mom on the phone. So, and Kyle Reese never really told her, oh, by the way. Yeah. But I don't think he even knew that at the time. He just knows that these people can replicate people, but they're their own person, in other words. Right. You know? And that brings us, of course, to Terminator 2, which, let me tell you something. If there was anything I loved about this movie, hearing about it when it first came out, was that a lot of people were noticing that this was a very popular movie with women. Okay, very popular, and that's because you know Linda Hamilton was such a powerhouse in this movie. She wasn't the damsel in distress like in part one. She was a fighter. She was really strong. Yeah. You know, she really got herself buffed up, and she was quite the fighter and everything. You know, but this one, obviously, no doubt about it, this is where it peaked.
Oh yeah, this one was like I actually saw this movie before I saw the first one.
Really?
Yeah. So when I went back and I saw the first one, I'm like, I saw Schwarzenegger at the beginning. I was like, that doesn't feel like the Terminator. Where's his leather jacket?
Yes.
He's wearing this gray jacket with the brown pants or whatever pants he had on. So when he actually did the transformation, where he had the black leather jacket, I'm like, okay, now that's the Terminator I know because. He'd been in the leather jacket all through this series.
Right. Now, this one, I will admit, worried me because I felt that when they showed the trailers, they gave away the twist too early. I mean, if I had gone to this one not knowing that Arnold Schwarzenegger was here to protect him this time, it would have been a different movie for me, you know? But it didn't matter, though. In the end, still loved it.
Yeah.
You know? And this is one of those movies you don't just watch once. The first two, of course, here's the other thing about these movies. These are the only two movies that James Cameron directed. Now, maybe if James Cameron came back for Terminator 3, it would have been a better movie and we would have liked it. But without James Cameron's influence anymore, the studios are like, look, we've got a property, we've got a franchise, let's milk this for all it's worth. And that's what happened at the end.
But they did quite a good job with this one, especially. Remember the helicopter? Do you know about that one? The helicopter chase scene where the film crew, they thought it was too dangerous to do, so there was like James Cameron and one other guy filmed it.
Oh, I can believe it.
Yeah, because it was such a dangerous stunt
and everything. Well, they're flying a helicopter underneath an overpass.
Yeah, and there was no real special effects. It was like that was a helicopter,
but the special effects in this movie are what made it also so great. Now, this movie was great just with the story and the characters, but one thing that everyone loved was with the climactic battle between the Terminators. Arnold Schwarzenegger grabs the cop, throws him face first into a brick wall, his hands are up like the "don't shoot me,"
Yeah.
And he just does a reverse.
Where he like basically his face just now appears on the back of his head and he's turned around.
Yes! It's like it's that easy for him. But that whole concept of liquid metal, I mean, you were worried because it's like, how do you destroy something like this? You know?
Like as much trouble as they had in the first movie with this Terminator, the Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator, now he's the one having trouble with a new model.
And a very strong, powerful model. And this is where it also peaked. It never really got more powerful than him. You know? Liquid metal. You injure him, he'll just heal because he's liquid. You know? And the special effects were awesome, but, you know, the moments, like there's the elevator when they're rescuing Sarah Connor. First off, they have to rescue her.
Right.
But she's almost out on her own. And she has this intensity about her that you just love, and you can really understand because you know what she's going through. No one believes her. But she's still like, okay, I got to get out of here. And you think they're just about to get her, but this was like one of the funniest parts. Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up and rescues her.
Yeah.
You know?
And he repeated the classic line, "Come with me if you want to live."
Right.
That Kyle Reese said to her in the first movie.
Pretty much the last time you'll ever hear it in an appropriate context. You know, but
that whole scene was actually
because everyone's trying to attack Arnold now, but he's a Terminator.
Yeah, so he's just beating the shit out of everybody.
He's throwing everyone around, and that one doctor who didn't believe her because this guy
Earl Bowen's really good.
He connected 1, 2, and 3 together. Because he was in all 3 of them. And he gets to see a Terminator for the first time. And he sees, this one lady has a broken arm. Whacks him with her cast.
Yeah, and all it does is break his glasses.
And he just gives her this look. And he just pushes her, real hard. But of course, this movie is known for its one-liners.
Yeah.
It had some of the great lines. Come with me if you want to live came from the first one, but it had...
Well, he also said, "I'll be back again."
I'll be back. Yep. Of course, he says the "I'll be back."
Trust me.
Trust me. That was classic. It's like, you promised not to kill anyone.
Trust me.
Yeah. And
then when he goes and fires the gun, it shows his readout is like casualties 0.0.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah. What if it was like 0.1? What would that even mean?
Or whatever.
Oh, no. Here's my favorite part about that. He's shooting with this humongous Gatling gun, right? Gatling gun or something. And when he runs out, he sees there's a but then all these officers come out. Yeah. It's like, okay, now we got him. It's like, no, you don't. You gotta have anything. But yeah, classic moment. Oh, and of course, everyone was saying, "Hasta la vista, baby."
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
Well, I'll be back.
No, there was something else besides that one. Hasta la vista. Hasta la vista was a big one. Everyone was saying.
Well, they parodied that in the
everything.
TV show. Well, they parodied it in California Dreams because the principal was played by the guy who was Earl Bowen, who was the psychiatrist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was trying to get into a room, and the kids wouldn't let him in. Mm-hmm. So he's just looking up through the window. He's like, "I'll be back." Yes. And he said it just like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, this movie. Ultimate classic. It peaked here. One of the major reasons why it peaked with this one was because this one was just too good,
Yeah.
And from here on out, they didn't care so much about story or plot. They just wanted to take the elements and try to move it forward in a cash cow way, which brings us to Terminator 3. Now, Terminator 3... I will respect because of its ending.
I don't know. The ending really was a disappointment for me.
But you know what? For me, the ending said, okay, boom, it's finally Judgment Day. Right. We're not going to, everyone, Arnold, the girl's father, the guy who actually helped create Skynet and everything, they still blew everything out. Now, I want you to realize... One of the most important things that happened in Judgment Day was that they changed a lot of things. And remember how they ended Judgment Day with saying that, the future, once so clear to me, now was like a highway where you could only see so far.
Yeah. That
was the excuse that was really brought up that made these sequels possible. because now they're changing things.
Well,
Judgment Day, the original Judgment Day, which was
August 29th, 1997.
Yeah, that came and went.
Right.
But now they're like, oh, it's inevitable that Judgment Day should happen.
Going back to T2, did you actually watch the or like the one with all the special features?
Yes, yes.
Because there was a thing you could put on
the extended version.
Yeah, you put on like the date on your DVD player,
Yeah.
and it would show you the entire movie, like with all the stuff that was cut out
with the original
put back
ending.
in. Yeah, like I even saw the one where Sarah was on the bench as an old lady.
Yes.
With John's grandson or something.
Mm-hmm. Because what's funny is that in the beginning she has the nightmare where they're on the playground.
Yeah.
Now they're actually on the playground, and the guy who you see is John Connor. John Connor, the most replaceable movie character in history, I think, besides James Bond and other people. But now he's playing with his son, and at the beginning of Terminator 2, you see John with a scar on his face. But now he's a fresh-faced guy. He's a senator, and he teaches. He through peace, that we have that, as opposed to through war. And you know what? Looking back on it now, the answer is yes. It would have been better to have just ended Terminator 2, the Terminator series, there.
Yeah.
One complaint that George Lucas and Steven Spielberg has about the movie industry is that we just don't know how to end things.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we have so many Batman Begins.
Right.
Star Trek Begins. Reboot this. Remake this. Let's start over from scratch here. Let's remake it in the image that I grew up always dreaming of. That's what the director probably says, And but sometimes it's good just to end.
Right.
End on a high note. I mean, the problem is that this note was too high.
Yeah, it made so much money they wanted to keep going with
Exactly. And that brought us, of course, to this one where John Connor is now grown up. Sarah Connor is dead. Actually,
Yeah, well, he's not fully grown up, but he...
Right, but Linda Hamilton, when she read the script, she's like, I don't want to be a part of it. Because they didn't want to bring her back,
Yeah, they should have.
Yeah, but no, I mean, come on. She was one of those people who's like, okay, guys... I'm not. This movie is not like it should be,
right?
Because one of the things that was worse about this movie, and James Cameron was always able to keep the special effects realistic or at least explainable to the point where you can be like, okay, yeah, I get that. When the lady Terminator zaps the machines, the cars, and it starts turning them on so that they're self-driving. No, we didn't have self-driving cars back then. So yeah, you can hack a car and maybe change the radio station. Or maybe turn on the windshield wipers, but they couldn't drive on their own.
Well, yeah, because she had like the electrical impulse.
Yeah.
But a car isn't driven through. I mean, you can start it.
Yeah, they can start.
The battery will start it, but the battery does not push the clutch in or put the gear shift in first.
Exactly. Which, of course, they did. Now, of course, we're supposed to suspend disbelief.
Right.
But come on, there's a point at which it's like, okay, yes and no.
I got into a Terminator that could liquid metal, shapeshift.
Right, we can do that.
It was a little harder to get into this one that could control. Now, to control the other Terminator, that I could get into because the programming was similar enough to the point where she could have gotten into Terminator.
Right, and that would have made sense. Of course, by this time, everything that was cool was now a joke. Arnold Schwarzenegger goes into a lady strip club.
Is that the one where he does?
Yes, he takes the guy's clothes, and then he walks out. He puts on the glasses like he did before, but of course they're these sparkly star glasses.
They're star glasses.
Yeah. And of course they do a periodic joke, which was lame even back then. The classic talk to the hand.
And then he grabs the guy's hand and starts talking to it.
Yeah. Which makes sense that a Terminator would do that. But why is it that Arnold Schwarzenegger would come to this time period so ignorant of what is going on and everything, whereas Christina Loken, and I might be butchering her name, Kristana Loken, who, yes, one of the best parts was that you saw her somewhat naked though from the back. Having her being the Terminator was nice because she's very good looking and everything. But one of the problems is she's not as advanced as Liquid Metal one. Yeah, it's like, so what? We're downgrading these guys all of a sudden, But obviously, what they did in Terminator 2 changed the timeline to create Terminator 3, which created Judgment Day, and of course, more car chasing, or the fact that he had to take out his core, his power core. He throws it at this humongous...
it was a nuclear blast.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You gotta wonder. Before, they're like, okay, the liquid metal guy cannot change into a nuclear bomb because it has components, missing parts. Why couldn't the Terminator, once he realized this is the last Sarah Connor, just blow up in a nuclear blast or something, you know?
Yeah.
Because he has that common core and everything. Or the core, not common core. Common core is the math thing. But you know what I'm talking about if you've seen this movie. But this is where a lot of it just is rehashing, you know?
I mean, it did have its good moments. But
very few, yeah.
I mean, I like the part with the tow truck where he puts the thing, doesn't he hook it onto like a manhole? And the thing just flips.
Yes,
that was actually kind of cool.
That was kind of cool. I mean, these things. It wasn't the worst one yet. Okay, we're coming to that. But this was the beginning of the end. This was this is why people don't like sequels and remakes and reboots and stuff. It's because the quality just drops like a rock. And this is one of the first places where that happens in. The other thing about this, of course, one thing they wanted to introduce was the idea of John Connor meeting his future wife, who, of course, was already engaged to somebody. She's a veterinarian and stuff. And, of course, they had that one moment where she's, like, blowing somebody away, shooting a whole bunch of things. And John's like, "You remind me of my mom." Supposed to be funny, really comes off as lame.
Yeah.
So this is the beginning of the end, but this is the beginning where finally we're past trying to save the world. That's the one part I did like about it. So I was looking forward in a way to Terminator Salvation. First off, I like Christian Bale. This is before his epic rant.
I've heard about that.
Talks about that. Yeah, there are times you actually can, I think it's on YouTube and stuff. You can hear what he was actually yelling. In defense of Christian Bale, he is doing a very intense scene. He has got to get himself into an intense emotional state. And that's when that happens. This one they do try to do different because this is the one where Arnold Schwarzenegger did not show up until the end. And it wasn't even Arnold. It was more like a computer-generated image over a person type of deal. But this one had some good moments, had a good idea to it, but it really just didn't click altogether. The Skynet is supposed to send in a human to infiltrate the human resistance. This is a very different future than what we were expecting. John Connor is not the head of the resistance. There's another group whose base is on a submarine, obviously underwater, where apparently
I would hope so if it's on a submarine.
Yeah, but I mean, they're under the water so that apparently the machines can't get to them because the machines won't develop a way to be waterproof, I guess.
The next Terminator.
Yeah, it's really a struggle at this point. We're fighting the losing war, but it's a war. But it's a fight for genocide. Basically, you lose, you die, you win, you live. So you have no other choice but to fight. The action sequences are so. You can see the Terminators are really tough to beat at this stage, and there's lots of Terminators around. Starts off, he's on a mission to go pick something up. We're not really sure what it is at first, because here's the funny part. He goes into the head command area, and it's like it's classified need to know basis. And it's like, who is he really supposed to tell? Do you really think he's a machine agent or something? It's like, clearly there's us and there's them and there's no double agents or anything,
Okay, in case you haven't figured out, this is the one Terminator that I have not seen.
Oh, that is true.
I have not seen this one.
Yeah.
Even though I do like Christian Bale, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I was so disappointed with T3. I'm like, yeah, they lost.
Yeah, I'm going to skip this one. Yeah, you haven't seen this one. That is correct. Let's just go through it real fast. Basically, Sam Worthington, he starts off as a human being who gets executed for a crime he may or may not have committed. And they took this image. Now, how they ever found out, because Helen Bonham Carter is also in it. They took her image. He's supposed to infiltrate the human resistance to kill John Connor. But the problem with this movie is that Skynet also has a very intense interest in Kyle Reese, which makes no sense when you think about it. See, at this point, they're throwing time travel logic out the window. And they're saying, let's take what we know and make it interesting and apply it to what we're doing here, even if it makes no sense. Okay? And this was one of the most awkward moments in movie history. Kyle Reese is a teenager. Christian Bale's in his 30s. So the son is meeting his father at a much younger stage. Which sounds interesting, but the problem is that, Skynet is kidnapping a lot of people. Why? They're Terminator. I think they're supposed to they want the humans to do some work that maybe they don't want machines to do. Maybe it's beneath the machines or something. I don't know. There's a lot of saying, well, why are they doing that? You just don't know. And it's just not clicking, okay? With that said, it does bring us to...
I did hear, people were disappointed with this movie, and I think that's one of the reasons I didn't go to see it.
Well, they tried to do, they did with stuff that sounded cool, but they didn't bring out a good explanation, and they didn't make it as intense as it should have been. And one of the bigger problems was that they were trying to do this raid on this one complex, and they have this code now, or this one machine that shuts down the machine. It turns them off basically from a distance. They sends them a signal that says go to sleep or something like that.
Well, like the space station in Star Wars, the Phantom Menace, where they shut that, they blew that up, and all the droids powered down.
Exactly, something like that. But no, you have to zap them from a distance, type of thing. But it turns out the whole thing was just a trap, so they could find out where the resistance was, and they bombed their headquarters. So Terminator Salvation ends where we're supposed to be. John Connor becomes the leader of the resistance now, okay? And then it all falls apart in Terminator Genisys. Terminator Genisys, so named because because first off, we're trying to eliminate everything that happened ever, okay? It comes off as a sequel. It's more of a reboot. They did say it was a reboot too, because they're trying to start everything over. Now, and the one thing I do like is that if you watch this and Terminator, because that's the first thing I did when I finished watching Terminator Genisys, I went and watched the Terminator Part 1, and they do, when Kyle Reese comes back into the future, into the past, into 1984, he meets up, he does exactly the same things that he did during the first Terminator movie with Michael Biehn.
Yeah, I really like that part. I actually was not gonna see this movie, because I was, like I said, I didn't see the Salvation.
Right.
I was at work one day and my manager's husband came in and he's a huge Terminator fan. We were talking about it a little bit, and he actually sold me on the movie. That's why I ended up seeing it, and I actually didn't think it was really awful. I liked it better than T3.
Yeah, this one had improvements, but also had some major complaints.
Yeah, I
mean, let's talk about the improvements first. First off, they bring us to modern day right away, where apparently Judgment Day now never happened.
Yeah.
But what were some things you liked?
I like just how they went back to the original Terminator. Like when you see the T-800 land, and you're in that one area with the three punks.
Yes.
But now it changes because there's the hooded Arnold Schwarzenegger
coming out saying, I've been waiting for you. And
yes, and I was like, oh my god, they just changed history. That's so cool. But they did it so well, because you're like, what the heck? Did they just take parts of it and put it back into this movie? No, they did that so they could change it.
Right. Well, they changed too many things. For example, one of the bigger problems with Terminator Genisys was that from the first Terminator, we know that they are surrounded by living tissue, okay?
Yeah.
But their living tissue does not regenerate. That's why Arnold Schwarzenegger had to put on the glasses.
Yeah.
When he got damaged. As he gets damaged, he can't put himself back together again. He doesn't regrow, okay? At least that was what we understood from the first Terminators.
Right.
Here, he gets all damaged, but he can regrow, you know? And of course, they started in 1984, and now, Sarah Connor has become a badass already. She's, she comes in and she saves Kyle Reese and gives him the line,
The come with me if you want.
Right. And of course, that line, by this time, that line has gotten old. If there's anything I hate about sequels, is they feel that they have to have this list of requirement that says, make sure you work this line in there. Like, Star Wars always has to say, I have a bad feeling about this.
But that's one of the classic things.
No, I know, but it gets
I love
old.
That. When I heard about Force Awakens, first thing is, well, did someone have a bad feeling about this?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Well, of course they did. And of course she comes in saying, come with me if you want to live. Now, here's the funny part. The first part is, Kyle Reese points a gun at a guy with the classic, what day is this? What year is this? He wants to make sure that it actually worked. His mind is a little scrambled from going back in time. They also pull some time travel crap where he remembers stuff from a youth that he never had. Okay? Now, the thing is, he takes a gun and he's pointing it at a liquid Terminator.
Yeah, that got me.
That really ruined this one thing. Because first off, okay, he's a Terminator, that's one thing. But why is the Terminator really allowing this guy that he sent back to kill to do this? He got him right in front of you! Just, zoink, Just take your arm and be, hey, look at this, look at my finger. Zoink, and he's dead.
Or you can do the hand into the machete thing.
Right. Not complicated, But, so okay, he let him live, and eventually they find a way to kill the Terminator. Then, because Arnold Schwarzenegger, who apparently was sent back in time, this time, we don't know who sent him back. First it was John who sent the Terminator back in Terminator 2.
Right.
Then it was the wife, Mrs. Connors, who sent it back in Terminator 3.
Oh, right, because I remember he didn't have to follow John's orders anymore.
Right, but he had to follow her orders, because he killed John Connor, okay? Now, this is the one part that I didn't like. If this last Terminator, would have ended with Kyle Reese going back in time, I would have accepted it. Closed the series. Ended it where it began, where Kyle Reese goes back to the past, right?
So make like a loop?
Make the loop. Finish the loop, exactly. But here they're like, no, let's get off on our own tangent. We'll have a mystery person send back Arnold Schwarzenegger to Sarah Connor when she was vacationing in the past. Now, here's what I'm wondering. How come if that happened, there aren't other changes in memories and stuff? Like why didn't John Connor and Kyle Reese start having changes in their memory back then?
Yeah, I don't know.
One thing I will have to admit, and this is one thing that you can debate till the cows come home. Put yourself in John's shoes for a moment and imagine that you have this guy. First off, you have all the people surrounding the time machine, okay? And you have all these volunteers. How do you really... first off, you gotta send Kyle Reese, of course.
Yeah.
Because he's your father. But you can't tell him that. It's so funny. One of the most tragic things about the show before is that Kyle Reese dies in the first Terminator without really knowing what he had done.
Right.
It's kind of a sad thing when you think about it. And John Connor can't tell Kyle, because if you tell someone that, it could change the whole loop. Now, Terminator Genesis had a beautiful start, in my opinion. I love how it started. You have father and son fighting the fight. And this is the part where we've been waiting for. We're finally winning. We've gone from losing to winning, And they're fighting side by side, So that's one of the best parts about this, how it started. My biggest complaint. Remember how I said Kyle Reese, Michael Biehn looked like someone who really came from hell?
Right.
He came from that. This guy here looks like he came from a boy band. Seriously, he is so clean, so well fed, so pristine. It's like, dude, you're supposed to be someone who came from war, you know? You don't have that look. And this breaks a lot of the continuity. Now, there's a mistake somewhat that people make. Because in the first Terminator, Michael Biehn says, they sent me back in time and then they blew it up. Well, he doesn't know. He wasn't there, you know?
Yeah.
The one thing I do not like about the Terminator series is that they never showed anyone even once capturing a Terminator. You know? You rarely see Terminators walking around with a human skin. You always see the skeletal work, which is fine. You know?
Yeah.
I get it. They're going to be walking around. But the whole point of this series was the fact that they captured Terminators, reprogrammed them, and sent them back. And it's like, where is that? You know? What happened to that? But no, Terminator Genesis is supposed to be a reboot. Skynet is supposed to become Genesis now. And Genesis is supposed to be, well, iOS, your basic Apple device, which connects your iPhone, your iPad, your TV, your car, your Bluetooth and stuff like that, all together, right? So, but we're supposed to be starting over. They want to try to start off with a clean slate, and they did it wrong because we didn't let go of the past. However, what caused this was the same thing that happened in Terminator 2. You know? See, we're supposed to believe in time being a circle, right? But in the Terminator series, you're supposed to see time as a spiral. And every incarnation, Terminator 3, something changes. Terminator Salvation, something changes, you know? So maybe something did change where Skynet found out about Kyle Reese in Terminator Salvation, you know? You would think Skynet would have the good sense to just kill Kyle Reese then and there if it really knew, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, this is the father of the father. This is the father of the resistance. Kill him. Okay, we're done. Reset time.
Yeah.
But time is being reset over and over again. And of course, you want to bring it to modern day. It was supposed to happen 18 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
But now they moved it forward. Now we got to start all over again with, technology, again, being everywhere and eventually taking over our lives, you know? But the thing is, the ending was kind of crazy. The idea that this computer needed to age, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, here they are. It's the final showdown, and of course, everything they do to get there was kind of, crazy. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, "I'll be back," and everything. And one thing I will say that I did like was that finally Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator can be a liquid Terminator. Because remember, you saw these liquid Terminators being made, and it's like, no, they don't have any brains, they have no CPUs.
Right.
But they jump him in there, his CPU links up with somebody else, he gets to live. But I will say one thing that I say that is so wrong about this movie. You want to change things. You want to mix things up because it's cool. But no, it didn't work. Making John Connor the villain was an epic fail.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, and so, yeah, now Kyle Reese and, here's my question. Couldn't Kyle Reese have said, okay, guys, you run off, I've got this. Couldn't he have just run off to a hospital, get a vasectomy, and then just destroy everything?
Because it's no longer...
Yeah. I mean, they're fighting their son who's from the future. All you have to do is not have sex. Or, just promise, okay, from now on we promise just, just all this other stuff. But yeah, he could have just, got a vasectomy, just, prevented himself from having any children.
Yeah, this one was, I think, probably out of the 4 I've seen, the most confusing.
Well, that's because they wanted to change everything. They wanted to start over and hope that people would forget the past, and we wouldn't. We wanted the past to be completed.
Yeah.
Not altered uncontrollably.
It's not like Star Trek when they came out with the new movies and they kind of changed things.
Right.
That made a little sense. This one was a little...
Very confusing.
A little off the wall, a little confusing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Because the problem is you basically have this guy, and, again, he's uber powerful as opposed to being, liquid. He's now like, what he kind of reminds me of? He reminds me of, you ever have a magnet and that little container of metal in there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you put the magnet and the metal forms because it's magnetized now. It's like that. It's like he's now magnetic dust.
Yeah.
Where it was liquid metal, now it's magnetic dust that's combined to form an intelligent being. And the one part I also get is that he's very powerful, but he can also apparently brainwash someone by putting his, by like Matt Smith did to the original John Connor. Because you had the original John Connor, he's the hero. Kyle Reese, though, had probably the toughest part in this whole movie. First, he has to accept the fact that the Terminator that he's been fighting all this time is his friend. And John Connor, who's been his friend all this time, and son, is now his enemy. But he didn't know that, But the other confusing part, and this part just tops them all, when they leave the hospital and John Connor just shows up. Okay. Now, it's not too bad. John Connor has actually been there for years now. Okay? But he's been the robot John Connor, and he's been developing Skynet/Genesis. Okay? It's so funny. They brag about having 1 billion people now signed up. Now, 1 billion people is a big number.
Yeah.
But it's only 1/6 of our population. So, not really sure what the other 5 billion we're supposed to be doing, but you get the idea. And the thing is that he's been there this whole... So he probably heard, it's like, okay, they've time traveled, so they have a ride. So he finally goes to go and meet them and everything,
Right.
And this is where it's like, it should have been pretty easy for him just to take them out. But, of course, I had to extend it to the movie and everything and start all over again. And now, to tell you this, you turn to Genesis, I did like the ending because the ending was Sarah and Kyle together get to... But you know what? After moving to the future like this, do they really have to still have John now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you defeated part of Skynet, or at least you thought you did, So, I mean, it left a lot of questions. It was just so confusing. And the sequel, which everyone was planning on, has now been taken off the table. Because even they don't know what to do with this anymore.
Yeah, I think it just made it such a jumble that, I thought it was good up until Sarah and Kyle started doing the time travel. Because didn't they time travel a couple times in the movie?
Well, yeah, because first off, Kyle goes back to 1984.
Right.
Then Kyle and Sarah go up to 2015. Because they're just trying to bring the story up to modern day.
It just got...
Trying to ignore everything that happened.
I was fine with it up until Kyle and Sarah traveled together. Then it just got all mixed up for me. And I'm sitting there and it's like, okay, I thought this guy was a good guy. Now he's a bad guy. And what the hell's going on here?
Yeah. And also there's the fact that, Arnold Schwarzenegger gets all scarred up. But after a few years, he gets to heal up. What's really sad about this is that Arnold's character also, he was part of the building of this thing. He did construction for them and everything. So he could have done a better job of sabotaging this thing or making sure it just never happened to begin with, But the whole Skynet thing in Genesis now, basically you made too many changes and it blew up in your face. And people, the whole point of a sequel is that it's not a standalone adventure. You're taking things from a past that you've now erased. It's like, it's one thing that in 1984, for one thing, in 1984, if Kyle and Sarah jumped to 2015 and they never had sex or anything, well, then there should be no... there's no John Connor anymore.
Yeah.
To send back because you erased him. And the worst part is that, guess what? Now we have to live in a world of 2 Kyle Reeses. There's the Kyle Reese who's an adult, and there's the Kyle Reese who's a kid growing up with his parents. That didn't actually happen.
See, I'm getting confused again already. We're talking about what could happen, what should happen, and
yeah,
I'm all mixed up because now all of a sudden we don't have any John Connor.
Exactly. Well, guys, let me tell you something. don't think too much about these time travel movies. You could really get a headache because, you're doing things that just can't work, Before, James Cameron was keeping it together. When he sent back the second Terminator, that meant something, okay? But then, to be honest, Sarah Connor decided to change things, and this is how we got to Terminator Genesis. But too much altered, too much change. You have to wonder why Matt Smith, being the powerful Terminator that he was, who could brainwash people and everything, didn't just brainwash the whole lot and send people back to deal with it that way. Why did he have to, wait till the final moment when they destroyed Skynet? But so many questions, and when it just doesn't make sense, you have the epic fail that brings down the Terminator to its final resting place, which was a shame. Because it started with such great promise.
Yeah.
You had something here.
With the early ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's end on a high note. Joe, what would you say was your favorite Terminator moment?
Oh, God. There are... T2 had...
T2 had them all.
It was almost everything in T2. I love the chase scene. Like when they first meet up, where the T-800 and the T-1000 meet at the mall.
Oh, yes.
And then they go out and John Connor gets on his bike, and then the T-1000's in the truck, and then you see Arnold coming out on the motorcycle.
Yes.
I love the shotgun where he just flipped it around.
Oh, everyone loved that.
That was so cool.
Yes. I mean, he could just roll that thing and shoot, and there's so many moments, because back then, remember, at that moment, you didn't know he was a liquid metal Terminator. You just thought he was another Terminator, and you didn't realize what he could really do. Some of the best moments were moments they cut out. Like, there's this one moment where they kept this in, but they call the parents, the step-parents, right? And the dad is still the dad, but it's like the mom is talking all nice and sweet to John, and the Terminator takes the phone and starts talking in John's voice. And you're like, what's the dog's name? Max, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I hear Wolfie. It's like, Wolfie?
And that led us into a deleted scene.
Yeah, because he went back.
Yeah, he killed the father, and then he goes out in the backyard and kills the dog, and he pulls the tag off, and he realizes it says Max, so he realizes he messed up.
Right, but the thing is, it is a classic scene when you see the mom switching the phone to the other ear.
Yeah.
And then it's like she reaches up. You hear the noise.
Yeah.
But you don't know what it is.
Yeah, because she just puts her arm out of frame.
Yeah.
And then she hangs up the phone, and she looks over, and the camera just pans over. You see her arm turn into the blade, and the guy's still drinking the milk.
Yeah, and then there's the milk. The blade goes through the milk, through the guy's head, and he's dead there. And it's just a classic moment. But ultimately, the biggest mistake about Terminator was they took it away from James Cameron.
Yeah.
And James Cameron, Avatar had its moments too, but he is a visionary. I mean, everyone talks about how good Alien was, but Alien was pretty basic and dealt more with claustrophobia. Aliens, with James Cameron directing, was an awesome movie, because it had all the adventure and they try to even the playing field. If there's any one thing we lost in the Terminator series after Terminator 2, was we lost the intensity of it. Because we knew everything was going to be fine. Everything, that somehow John was going to come out in the end on top and stuff like that. And they tried to make it funny, but the action sequences lacked the oomph that the first two had. Because there was an element of danger there. Those Terminators were non-stop killing machines that really came after their prey. Here, they went kind of, they watered them down too much. Especially in Terminator Genesis. I mean, they had 2 Terminators, I think, and they just killed them like that in more unique ways,
Yeah.
The problem with the sequels is that people want to do the same but different. You want to defeat a Terminator, but in a different way. So how are we going to defeat this Terminator? He's made of liquid metal, so we're going to pour acid on top of him. It's not going to be pushed. It's strong enough acid to melt him, but not strong enough to be up there, in the in the rafters. He's just held by plastic tubs. It's like the plastic won't melt it, but it'll still melt a liquid Terminator and stuff like that. Whatever we can do that will look cool and make us say that, hey, we're the same but different. And Sometimes you just got to quit when you're ahead.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate thing. Speaking of which, I think we'll be doing that right now. Joe, do you have any final thoughts on the Terminator?
Not really. I just can't reiterate just how much I think it's sunk from T2. I mean, it was.
It sunk from a great height.
Yeah,
it really did.
I think it started to come back after Salvation a little bit. Like it came up a little, but it never. I don't think it's ever.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you do to it at this point, it will never relive the glory days of the Terminator and Terminator 2.
No, exactly. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, we're only talking about the movies. Obviously, we're not talking about the TV show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Yeah, in case you missed that part, we're skipping that. Two. So, all right, guys, that's it for us for today. We will see you at the theaters.
Take it easy.
Yeah, there we go. All right.